It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck, and of course that means some smart talk radio is in your future, in this segment, no exception. Interesting story indeed, one that I think that will hold your interest throughout. Sheri Sabroto Bryson, she suffered numerous hospitalizations and serious illnesses. As a child in her 20s, she was diagnosed with a terminal malignant brain tumor, and now, very happily in her 40s, she's making her life's work to support not only the healing process, in particular for youth, dealing with health crisis, and not just cancer, but kids in all kinds of treatments. Really a cool new work called Digging Deep, a journal for young people facing health challenges. And with that kind of as a rugged introduction, Sheri, how are you, my friend?
Great, thank you. Thank you for including me in the show.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. This indeed sounds like a mission of passion and a mission of genuine love for you. If you would, share with our Lewis at Large listeners across Northeast Kansas a little bit more about your background.
Okay, as you had mentioned, I'm a brain tumor survivor and very happy to be here sharing today. And what we have done is we have created a book called Digging Deep, and it's a journal that helps kids process their feelings about what's going on within their life, regardless of what kind of health challenges they're facing. And it's a bright, beautiful book filled with questions and writing prompts that help kids work through the various issues and things that are on their mind that they're thinking about all the time, but maybe not writing about or talking about.
What, it seems like you would think, gosh, there's got to be all kinds of formalized programs out there, not only at the local level, but at the national level. But tell us what you found as you began your work.
Sure. Well, I've been a volunteer with kids in hospitals way before I was ever diagnosed with cancer. I started as a volunteer when I was 16 and just kept doing different things with hospitals. And one of the things that I really realized from all my volunteer work, eventually I became a volunteer counselor in the hospitals, having support groups for kids and parents. And what I realized was there really was, kids and parents were really not talking to each other about what was going on. The kids would tell me in their support groups, well, I really, really want to just tell my parents what's going on, but I don't want to make them cry if I bring it up. And the parents were saying really the exact same thing, but in a different group, and they were saying, I know my kid, how can they possibly be okay with everything that they're going through? And I know they've got feelings in there, and I want to talk to them, and I don't know how to bring it up, and I'm scared to bring it up, and I don't want to rock the boat. And it really became obvious to me that although everybody wanted to talk about it, nobody really was. And it was really because there wasn't a simple tool that made it really inviting for kids to want to share their feelings and to share those with family and the healthcare professionals that were working with them. And that's why we developed Digging Deep.
On a personal level, my mother for many years was a therapist that led cancer survivor groups and also led therapy groups for parents that had terminally ill kids. And one of the things that she noticed was, again, kids either are very, very forthcoming right away, or they truly don't know how to express themselves. And it feels like Digging Deep is a key to unlock all that.
That's very true. And it's hard sometimes to know how we're feeling and to express it just straight away verbally. And by writing about one's feelings, it actually puts words to the feelings and, in a way, makes them more manageable. Sometimes people fear that when their kids start writing and opening up, that it will make things worse. And in fact, by being able to label the feelings and identify them, it helps the kids feel in control of their feelings and that they can deal with them and can understand them as a first step to being able to expressing them. Because if you don't even know what they are, it's very difficult to express them, and that's what the process of writing helps with.
Sheri, if you would share with our listeners, again, you had serious illnesses as a young person yourself. What kinds of help, if at all, did you get outside of the medical treatment that you got? Did you get any sort of not only sort of psychological support, but also just maybe cultural support in the same level that Digging Deep does?
So I was really fortunate to be introduced by a friend of mine whose mother went to this program. I went to a program in my local community, and this was 27 years ago, mind you, so quite a long time ago, when there wasn't as much support as there is available today in terms of what used to be called alternative medicine or mind-body wellness and things like that. And I was introduced to a program that helped us look at illness in our life and the roles we could play into becoming what they called an empowered patient. So this program was very, very helpful for me and really the basis of how I live my life today. And even though I'm no longer a patient, I definitely am an empowered person. And that program really taught me to look at the positive changes that I could make in my life to be able to live my life the way I wanted to live it. And one thing that I discovered during that process is the importance of introspection or self-reflection in order to kind of get my head together around what I wanted to be achieving in my life and the way I wanted to live my life. And one of the things that I realized through my own process was the importance it was for me to connect with people at a real emotional level. And my life, because I do that now, my life is so much stronger and better, my connections with people, and so much more real, that there was some element, looking back, I started writing Digging Deep with my friend Rose Offner during my 25th year of survivorship. And after thinking about it, I thought, well, really what I would like is to help kids and families who are going through this process not only see the blessings after the storm or see how they're discover answers from within as they're going through their coping and healing process, but really to see what changes they wanted to make in their life to not only get better, but to stay better, and to teach them the value of introspection as a tool that they can use for their entire life.
If you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. Got a special one going here with Sheri Sobrato Bryson. She is a cancer survivor. She also survived numerous illnesses and hospitalizations as a young child. Has put together a new work called Digging Deep. It's a real resource. It's called a journal for young people facing health challenges, an area which is very delicate, one that is sometimes not talked about. And she is doing tremendous work with a partner, Rose Offner, in bringing these issues out and getting them talked about and getting some real live help to those who need it most and who many times are not able and don't have resources to express themselves. And this is exactly what this journal does, is it draws out some of those feelings and emotions that are unique to those suffering serious health challenges. I'm curious, Sheri, what your reaction has been. What do you see from cancer survivor groups? What do you see from the healthcare communities and other medical healthcare professionals?
In regards to the book itself, or the concept that we're doing?
Yeah, how's the reception been so far?
Oh, it's been excellent. It actually officially is released this coming Wednesday on October 15th, where hospitals are able to acquire bulk copies of the book through an organization called IPGbook.com, where it's available on Amazon. So it officially has not been released yet, but we have had about 3,000 copies circulating over the last year, and I have to say the reception really has been tremendous. And the biggest compliment that I've received is, this is exactly what's missing in the care of children's health, something for children to be able to build resistance so that they can heal emotionally or right along with how they're healing physically. And that it's a tool that really helps kids reach inside themselves to gain that strength, to give them that feeling of control in a situation that otherwise may feel completely out of control. So we have a lot of user base already in a very small way because the book actually hasn't been released, but in over 25% of the children's hospitals nationwide are using the book already in a small way, and we certainly hope that with our official launch we'll be able to get lots of hospitals carrying the book, and not for sale, but for distribution to the patients that they'll be working with, as well as being on Amazon. We're hoping to be able to reach a broader community of people to let them know that this resource is available.
What about, I'm curious for you, as you put this together, what kind of emotions you felt? And again, this is not necessarily an emotional resource in and of itself, although I'm undoubtedly, when they're filled out by young people and they look back on it, it will be. But what kind of emotions came to you as you put this together?
Well, it's very interesting. I think a lot of the questions are based not only on my own personal experience. So certainly there were some emotions in me coming up with the questions, which brought me back to that place and time in my life when I was going through it. It also includes a lot of emotions from kids that I had worked with as a volunteer counselor, leading support groups for kids and families around their illnesses. So does that answer your question? So
Yeah,
I think it's an emotionally based work. It's filled with, I would like to say, for thought-provoking and emotion-provoking art. It's filled with about half the artwork is done by my co-author, Rose Offner,
right,
and the other half is actually artwork that was collected around the world from children. And the color and pictures in the book help the feelings come. And that was really fun to put together when we were designing it, is choosing the images that would help those emotions surface and also make it more inviting and more friendly and fun and engaging for those kids to work through the book.
You have sort of an epiphany moment. An interesting quote. It says that you had mentioned that having cancer turned out to be a gift, and the gift was that cancer gave you your freedom to live your life the way you wanted to live it. Expound on that just a little bit.
Sure. When I was diagnosed, I had just started a company, and right before that, I had been working on Wall Street. And neither thing that I was doing had anything to do with living my passion, which is really being with sick kids and their family. And one of the most important changes that I made was to realize it was okay to play with kids in hospitals. It was okay to live my passion, and I did not need to be starting companies. I did not need to be working on Wall Street, running around like a crazy person, but I could do that. I also realized how important it was to express my creativity, for example, one of which I did in the book, but also just to live my life in a creative manner, surrounding myself by interesting people and living my life with beauty surrounding me. And those are some of the positive changes that I made, as well as being able to prioritize my life so that I could make real time for people to connect with them in a real and honest way. And my life is a lot richer because of it. And that's why I consider cancer having been a gift in my life.
Sheri, again, as a child, you were hospitalized quite a bit, had lots of illnesses, and then in your 20s, were given the diagnosis of this terminal malignant brain tumor. I'm curious as to how enlightened are we as a society, and I'll throw the medical profession in, at least to the experience and to the level in which you experienced. Are we in dealing with these kinds of diagnoses and these kinds of situations from a sort of a psychological and sort of a from a non-medical point of view? Are we becoming more enlightened and more open and talking about not only our feelings, but what things really mean?
Well, I have to say that over the last 27 years, I've definitely seen progress. One of the programs the one that I mentioned that I participated in was really the only one. Now almost every hospital offers support groups and encourages people to look at conjunctive therapies or alternative medicine or things that they can do themselves to better their situation. And the importance of that, integrative medicine is sometimes what it's called now. So we've made significant progress. And there's a lot of other tools and self-help books and everything else like that that are available now. But the problem is there's also a huge gap in terms of emotional resources for kids because long ago, kids didn't survive if they had a cancer diagnosis or illnesses. When I got involved in this work, 80% of the kids would die, and now 95% with some cancers of these kids live. So there's a new issue that's out there called, for lack of a better word, the survivorship issues. Kind of long-term, how do kids that do survive and then maybe even get a secondary illness, what are their emotional needs if they've gone through something traumatic as a child when they're a teenager and have to maybe relive the situation again, or even as a young adult might get that. There's a lot of kids in that situation, as well as kids with chronic illness. So maybe something that they were born with that they have to deal with long-term, and chronic illnesses like asthma and diabetes and things like that. This book addresses those needs as well. And those illnesses become much more prevalent than they were 25 years ago. So even though there's been a lot of progress, there's still a large gap in how the emotional needs on an ongoing basis are available for kids because of survivorship and the incidence of these chronic illnesses.
Again, we're talking about Digging Deep here on Lewis at Large. Digging Deep is a journal for young people facing health challenges, authored by Rose Offner and Sheri Brisson. Sheri's our guest here. She is a cancer survivor herself. The work is an interesting one indeed. It is filled with illustrations and questions. As an example, what kind of questions does it have on the inside? For one might be our memory bank. It says our memories, experiences, and stories form our lives. Write about your favorite memories and why they're special. Keep an ongoing list and read it when you're feeling blue. And then there are blank pages for those who are suffering from some of these devastating illnesses to write down their thoughts. It's almost like a thought journal. It is a fascinating work indeed. Sheri, how can people get a copy of this work and find out a little bit more about the work that you and Rose are doing?
Great. Well, they can visit our website as starters, and we are at diggingdeep.org. So you can come visit our website. There's a lot of information there for parents, professionals, the kids themselves, as well as donors if people would like to be involved with our cause and help get this book into the hands of kids and families who need it.
Well, we really appreciate
We can also call our 800 number if you're a family interested in getting this journal for your child. Please call 800-488-3202 for more information.
Okay, say the number one more time.
800-488-3202.
All right, and again, the website is diggingdeep.org. And again, the work is called Digging Deep, a journal for young people facing health challenges. It is an Eric Hoffer Award winner, or finalist anyway. It's, again, written and penned and illustrated beautifully by Rose Offner and Sheri Brisson. Hey, again, thank you so much, and best of luck to you, and thanks so much for your contributions.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
We will be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.